Okay, I'm working on my 2006 Chevy HHR, and we're going to be replacing this shifter in here today. If you look online, it's hard to find any information on this, and it's kind of tricky to get this out. The reason I'm replacing the one in there is hanging up. It's very difficult to move back and forth. I picked up another one from a salvage yard. It was like $12. Very cheap to get another replacement. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, so we come in here. The first thing, we're going to take our key so we can move this shifter back. We kind of want to get it back here so it's going to be easier for us to work. And then we're going to go ahead and first of all pop this trim piece off. Now this just goes down in here and fastens into these. It's got these little clips here, and you can pull this out. Okay, with that out of the way, we're going to focus on this. Now, it's not a bad idea to get yourself some plastic trim tools. It'll make it easier. I'm just been using my thumbnail. You got to be careful. And I'm just popping this out of here using both hands. And so just give it a pull. It's got some clips right here. Start on a corner and just pop it out of there. Okay, so there's that. You can see the clips. And they go right into there. Pretty simple. We'll get that out of the way. Now also we've got two 7mm screws right here that we need to get out, and that's the reason you don't want to just go to yanking. You want to check out stuff like that because you can break the pieces. So we're going to remove these two 7mm, and then we'll work on getting this piece up. Okay, and I've seen some of these where they're real brittle and they're just going to break on you, but you're going to go around this perimeter and start lifting up, and it should pop up and off of here. Now the window switches are going to be connected, but you just pull it back, you get on your connector right here, give that tab right there a push down, and then just pull that off of there, and then there's your piece. Look, some of these, depending on the year, are kind of brittle, and I've seen them just break all to pieces. All you can do, go to the salvage yard, get on eBay, and just get you another one. Okay, now we do have some airbag module in here. It's not a bad idea to go ahead and disconnect the negative that's in your trunk where your spare tire is. Disconnect the negative so you're not messing with any of that. Now at this point, we're going to remove this top piece here. I've already got this loose. Pull your e-brake back a little bit, make it a little easier. But this pulls, this has snaps, as you can see, that hold it on there. So you just pull those off, set that aside. We've got a cigarette lighter back here. Go ahead and press that and disconnect that. Okay, just to show you this, the part that, on mine at least, that you push on is right on bottom there. If you can see that. That right there, you just push that down with your thumbnail and it'll pop out of there. So we got that. Now we've got a couple 10mm, you see those silver ones there. And we're going to go ahead and work on getting them. I've got them loose here, so we're going to go ahead and remove. Let me give you a better view of them. We're going to remove these two 10mm right there, and then work on lifting this up. Okay, so you can see we got those two off of there. We're going to come up here to the front. We got a couple more 10mm. And we're going to go ahead and remove these two. These are right behind the shifter. We're going to go ahead and take those two 10mm off there. Okay, now at this point, this is completely loose. Just lift it up off of the studded bolts and back over those. And we can pull this back and just go up over this. Might have to fiddle the seats around, but we're going to just pull this back so it is completely out of our way, so we've got room up here. Okay, and the easiest way I found was just moving this driver's seat completely forward and then just lifting it up over this and getting it out of the way. So now that's completely out of our way. We're going to focus on this piece of trim. It has some clips that hold it around here, and we'll just start up here. You can see clips onto this piece, and there's going to be some other clips on this other side, and we'll go around and show you this other side. Okay, and this other side's actually like two sections because it has the fuse panel back in here, so you have to take both of those out. But then you'll pull on this, and you can see how this just snaps. You can see the clips that snap around here. And we'll just take and pull this up this way, and we can move the seats back if they're in the way. And then there's that piece completely out of the way. So now we're making a little progress, and you can start to see the bolts that are down there. Now you might be thinking there's a couple back here. You might be thinking to yourself that, well, I can get in there and get those, but they're it's just a bolt and it spins. You have to hold it from the other side, so that's why this needs to come out. Unless you can come up with an easier way, you're going to need to remove it, because it's really not going to work too easily trying to put those back on. If they were studs that this simply fit down on, you could probably pull it off, you know, getting in there with a swivel or whatever, but it doesn't go together that way. So we have to remove this whole piece here. So you can start to see, we'll just focus on this side. We've got some 7mm that are coming through here. Already got that loose, and we've got one here, and then we got one right there, and then there's one over here on this side. We're just going to go ahead and take those 4 that are connecting this top part, and then we'll move on. Okay, so you can see we got those 4 out that go around this top part. So we're going to go ahead and just focus on this side since we're over here. We've got this bracket right here, and we need to get this loose because it attaches to this piece, this plastic piece. It's going to prevent us from moving it back because it's attached to this fuse panel and everything here. So we got a 7mm right here we're going to take out. And then right here we've got us a 10mm. We'll go ahead and remove that. So we're just going to do one side at a time here, so I can show you each one of these. Now this wire is also clipped into this. So I've got this one popped out, and pull that one back. You can see where it clips in to those holes right there. Let's pull that back. Now down here we've got a couple more 10mm. There's a bolt and there's a nut right here, and we need to get that loose. Now you can also see this part of this plastic has a nub right here. It goes into that, so we need to kind of pull that back. Same for right here. It's going to prevent you from pulling it back. So we're going to go ahead and remove this bolt and this nut right here. Okay, right here's a little plastic button that just holds this duct for the vents. Just pull that out. This comes out very easily by hand. Now we got this, got the bolts out of this brace. Now what we're going to do, we're going to get it off of these little nubs here, and we're just going to wiggle it a little bit It's like that. And it's, like I said, it's on this little piece of plastic. So you got to get them working off of that nub. Just like that. Okay, now we're just going to take and just kind of turn it in this manner and get it out from under these wires here, basically. And that's all there is to that. We'll set that aside. Okay, now also, you see this one stud. This is from the fuse panel. Push that back through there. It's going to hang up. Okay, so we got this side loose. So now we're going to go over here to the driver's side and we'll work on that. Okay, so over here, pull back the carpet. We got a 10mm bolt right here. Go ahead and remove that. And when you put this back, you will need to wiggle it into place. It's not just going to fall into place. We got that little clip. And so we got the, as far as this goes, we've got this loose. And now we're going to focus our attention up here on the shifter itself. We need to get this loose from the cable. We got a clip. All this does is spread these little sides out to keep the cable into place. Use a screwdriver. I'm just pulling it by hand. It's really easy. It's like a staple. Now these have to be pushed in to feed it back through here, but the first thing we got to do is pop this. If you can see this, let me get in a better position. We got to pop this cable, and I just can't get focused here. It's going on a little nub there. What we're going to do is we're going to take and, okay, let me push it forward. There we go. You can see that yellow part. It's just a little piece of plastic that pops over this nub. Now we're going to take, it's got a little screwdriver like this. We're going to go in and behind this here and just give it a little push. Watch your hands. And we just pop that off there. So you can see we got that. So now the only thing we got to do is push these little sides in and we'll have that loose. You can use a little screwdriver or a little tool. Right, so we got those sides pushed in there, so we can just push this cable back through there just like that. Just pushes back and we got that loose. Now the only other thing we should have, we got a little wire right back here that we need to pull back through and disconnect. Yours may be a little trickier to get through, but anyways, this is the wire, and you can use a little screwdriver or your thumbnail. Just pull that up and it should pull right off there. You can see you just got that little nub there. Just pull that up. So we're going to start trying to wiggle this back, and we should have everything loose. Now we do have a wire here that kind of wants to get hung up on, so we need to get that little wire pushed back so we can lift this up. So we kind of need to lift it up and over here and get it out of the way. Oh, well, I'm forgetting one more thing. Now you don't have to take this this whole dash panel off, but it does have some clips, and you need to pop this up just like that. I did forget that. You need to pop that up because the very top of this wants to hang up on that. That's probably what was hanging me up there. So now I should be able to pull this back. Give me 1 second. Okay, so here we go. Now we've got it loose. You can see how it wants to hit on the top of that, so you just have to get that loose. So now we should be able to rotate this up and get it completely out of here. And you can see we got this whole assembly, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with these bolts. Now we've got some 10 millimeters. We got a couple up in the front, and we got a couple, you see the other one right there, and the other one right back here. Now, what makes it tricky, said these bolts just go in here, and there's nothing preventing them from spinning. So you really need to take this out, or you're going to be having a fun time trying to you could probably get them loose, but getting them snug back down would not be fun. And I've seen these where they kind of got rattled loose too, so I'm going to be putting some high strength Loctite on these, because I do not want these to be sitting in there and through using this shifter coming loose again. So if you come to the back ones, you got a little spot you can get a wrench in here. So just got my 13. I'm going to put it on the bottom just like I was showing you there, and we'll get our little ratchet in here and just go ahead and, so we've got these slots on both sides. We'll start taking that loose, and then these up here are pretty easy to get to. Okay, I'm just taking out the last bolt here, and we've got this completely loose. Once you get these just broke loose, they're very easy. And then we can just pull this whole unit out through here once we get it. And then there is that. Like I said, this thing was hanging up and very difficult to move the shifter. Don't know exactly what was going on with it, but I've got a replacement here nonetheless, and this one here works perfectly fine. So just as simple as that, once you've got this out, you know, that's the biggest part of the battle. So we'll make sure to feed this little wire through here. It'll make it easier to connect that. But we've got it into place. We're just going to drop the bolts back to the bottom. Like I said, I'm going to put some Loctite on these, because I noticed that the ones that were in there are a little bit loose, and I don't want these coming loose. That can cause problems too, and this thing is a little bit difficult to be taken in and out, so I do not want these to be coming loose. So I'm going to put a little Loctite on them as I'm putting this into place. Like I said, you can come through here with your wrench, and then you just get underneath with a little socket or whatever you want to use and just snug it up. So I'm going to go ahead and just start putting these back in with some Loctite. Okay, so we got those locked down with some nice Loctite and snugged them down real good, so you can reach in here with your wrench and hold that with a boxed in if you have trouble getting your fingers in there, and just get this started good to tighten it down. But those are all snugged down good, and you can see definitely how removing it makes it easier. I mean, it's kind of difficult, not to say that you couldn't do it in the vehicle, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and more specialties in the front to figure out how you're going to get underneath and hold those from moving enough to tighten them up. So we're going to go ahead and put it back in the car here now. Okay, as we're putting this down to place, we're going to make sure we get this reconnected. We'll make sure that this goes up and feeds back into here and back on to that where it's supposed to go right here. So we're just going to feed it down and work it back in here out of the way that we took it out here. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and just route this cable back while we're at it and make sure that we've got it into place. And you got to kind of watch things to make sure that you're not hung up on any of the stuff so we can slide it forward. And I'm not far enough as of yet, but we're going to look down here and we'll just go to both sides here and make sure nothing's hung. Okay, and as we come to the passenger side, you can see that this is trying to hang up on the duct here where there's a little nub. So we gotta work all this in here, and we're gonna also put that back up and on where it goes here. But we just kind of wiggle it and get it into place, and we're going to get all this back where it goes, and this goes back up on to this, so we need to wiggle that back on there. So we're just going to work on doing that, and we also got to get our little brace and stuff back in there. We got the little metal brace that has to go back in there as well, but we've got to finish getting this forward, and it goes up above this wire here as well, so we need to feed it a little bit farther. Okay, and as you wiggle it forward, you'll note that that bolt right there has to line back up. Now, I'm not for sure if I showed that one earlier, but if I did not, then I apologize. That bolt has to go in right there. You have to remove that to be able to get this out. I'm not 100% sure if I missed that step, but I think I may have. But we got that lined up, and also as you look down here, these are lining up where these bolts go. And I've got these back on to the studs right there, and then this lines up right there. And we'll have to get these back on to that. I went ahead and put the little button into this. So right now, I'm just going to put this 10 millimeter right back onto here. And then we've got another one that's going to go right up here. And we know everything's lining up good because our bolts are lining up nice. So we got that. And then we've got the other one that goes right here. We're going to go ahead and get that started and into place. And we'll go ahead and snug these down. And then also the wire pops in to these two spots here and here. Pop those in. And what I'm going to be focusing on now, these 4 7mm screws that, remember, come through up here. I've kind of got everything sort of loose at this point, so these will line up easier. But we're going to put those 4 in right there at this point. Okay, I'd gotten ahead of myself on this piece. I actually do have to get this into place here. It goes under this wire, and this little 10mm goes over that, so I need to get that into place. I like to kind of get everything loose until everything's tightened, just so I can make sure the alignment is good and I don't have any trouble lining any bolts up. Okay, so this brace just goes in under the wire. Just pull it up and around. It has to go back on that little nub there. You have to pull that back onto there and tighten it down, and then this part goes in behind the vent, sort of, and on to that stud there. Just pull that box forward, this box here, if it doesn't want to line up. Just pull it right onto that bracket there, Make sure that's lined up, and that's all there is to this. Again, don't do like I did. Make sure you get this little bracket on, because it has to go, as you see, in behind this, and this little snap, plastic snap has to go through there, and then we have to get the little nut onto here, and then we got the bolt that goes under here through the bracket. And this is probably the trickiest piece, just getting this to be able to pull this whole thing back. But then we can go ahead and do that, and then we've got this one that goes right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and snug this down, this little bracket, and then we'll have that. Okay, so on the driver's side here, all we got is the bolt. It goes right here. We're just going to get that into place. So you'll know if you got everything lined up, you won't be able to get. And then this little snap just pops, holds that right there. So we'll snug that down. And that's all there is as far as this piece goes. And then we're going to put the 10mm bolt right back down there in the lower part of that shifter. Okay, so with everything lined up, I finished snugging my bolts. Remember the one right here, don't forget that. Got the one over here. We got the ones over here. We've got a nut there, a bolt right down under here. See that, and we had the 7, and then we had the nut up here, and then of course our top 4 under here. We've snugged all those down. This console, this piece here, very easy to put back. Push it up at the top and then lock it in at the bottom. If you get it out of whack, just realign it. That's all there is to that piece. Since we've got this back into place, we can go ahead and snap that back up there out of our way. So we've made sure everything's tight and snug down. We're going to go ahead, make this connection right here. There's that. We're going to just push that back together, and we'll have that connection. Okay, and with that in there, we can just kind of push that back in there out of the way, and we'll push this kind of over here under the carpet. We're just going to make sure that it's out of the way when we put our console piece back there. Now, another thing that I didn't touch on there a second ago, we're going to go ahead, as far as this goes, we just feed it right back up here. We make sure that's lined up, and we'll just pop that right up into place just like that. And you can see how those spread out to lock it on there. Now the only other piece we got is this little staple looking thing, and that just slides right in between them and pushes down and prevents that from coming back apart, or pushing in and pushing together. So it should just push right down on there like that. And make sure you got it fully pushed down where you can see little ends coming through there, so you know you got it firmly seated. Now as far as this part goes, there's nothing to it. We're just going to pop it right back on. You can see that, and that's all there is to it. Just firmly push it on there and then that is locked into place. So we've got our bolts and everything tightened, and the next piece that we're going to work on is going to be this piece that goes around, this trim piece, and we have to actually go over the carpet and make sure that it goes back around here and holds this carpet and snaps on her. So we're going to put that on next, and then we'll worry about the piece that comes back here and bolts to this. And it seems like a little bit of work, but it's really easy to removing this stuff. Not a big deal at all. Okay, so just putting this piece back into place here. There's nothing to it. So just make sure that it's going over the carpet, that your carpet is pushed back down. And we're just going to start. We're going to push it down where you see those. Just push that down under there. Just start back here. If you've got it into position, you should have no problem snapping it back on here. So just make sure that you snap it all the way around the perimeter. Get it all back locked into place. And that's all we've got to do to that. We've got the other little fuse panel piece. We'll go ahead and snap that on next. Okay, here's our little fuse panel. Pay attention to this little piece here. It goes underneath of that. Kind of helps hold that. So slide it under when you put it up there. Make sure it's underneath that, and then lock it in the top. Just like that, all there is to it. Okay, and this is how I took this back little console piece out. I slid this seat up, and then I just worked it under here. It's just wiggle it up through here and work it around over that shifter. Just like that. And then make sure that you get it onto your studs up there, and then you got it on to your studs back here. And we'll go ahead and put this cigarette lighter. It'll only go one way. Snap that into place so we're not forgetting that. So you got the two studs, and you got the ones right up there, and make sure you get those slipped back on. We'll go ahead and put these back ones in first, and we'll work on those front ones. Alright, so I just finished snugging those down with my little deep small ratchet, and snug down the ones up in the front there. And we've got our connection for our cigarette lighter. So we're going to go ahead and just put this piece back in place here. We just need to get it over the top of the shifter here. May have to move the seat and fiddle with it if it doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. But this piece, super easy. Just push it down. All there is to that. So we're all finished up with this. It's actually a pretty good design the way these bolt down. They're nice and solid with the 10mm nuts. So we're going to go back up to the front now, and we'll finish up there. Okay, before we can put this piece back into place here, we're going to need to get this connection made for the window switches here. And I'm going to probably have to move this back, which means I'm going to have to get the key in here to move the shifter back momentarily to get this into place. Okay, and there I have the shifter back out of my way. Now I can go ahead and connect this, and we'll get this take our two screws and put them in right up here. Once we snap this down, very easy to snap this in place. So let's start with the top part, line up your snaps in the back, and that's all there is to this. Okay, now I'm just putting these 7mm on each side back. Okay, and this for the switches, switch cover, very easy to put back on. Just push it right at the top there, and we got that back in place. We just got to get our little ring around here. Okay, so we got our ring here. We're just going to slip it right back onto here and just push it down and let them lock into place. Okay, so now we just put our key in. We can try this thing out. And I wish I would have showed you the first one. It was very, very difficult to move this lever. It felt like it was just in a bind. And now this is just operating very smoothly and like it's supposed to. So not too difficult. Looks good. And that's going to conclude the video. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of information on taking this console out, so it may help somebody out with this center console removal. So if you found the video helpful, please give it a like. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and I thank you for watching.